What is up, YouTube? That's here, and today I'm going to be starting off my review of a Premier Challenge I recently took second place in at Portland Regionals. You know, normally they have the main VGC event on Saturday, and then on Sunday they usually hold a secondary event for all the people who still want to play Pokemon, as well as have a second chance to earn some CP. So this was a 38-player, almost elevated Premier Challenge that I did pretty well in. Like I said, I think I said I got second place. And my team on the left-hand side is going to be Butterfree, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, and Kartana. My other two Pokemon are Garchomp and Arcanine. And my very first round is going to be going up against Colin Hare, otherwise known as the Battle Room. This guy is a very strong player who's been strong in the past, I think, 3 years. I remember hearing a lot about him in like 2014 and 2015, but remember he's the guy who like really popularized like Hyper Voice. I don't know if he was using Hyper Voice at the time, but like the popularized the use of Sylveon back when that Pokemon was like really strong back in like 2014 and 2015. So I just want to talk about my team for a sec. This is going to be a Sash Butterfree. This is going to be a Life Orb Lele. This is going to be a Choice Scarf Bulu. I love Choice Scarf Bulu, and I'm so happy that I can actually make a team where I can use it correctly. Next Pokemon is going to be an all-out pummeling Kartana, so like a Fighting MZ Kartana. So it's made to check things like Porygon. It can also deal decent damage against Celesteela, but it also gets the boost from Bulu's Grassy Train to its own Leaf Blade. So Kartana is like a secondary Bulu if they somehow give my Bulu in certain situations. So that's kind of cool. Next two Pokemon are going to be Groundium Z Garchomp, just standard complete Garchomp with Swords Dance, and then an Assault Vest Arcanine with like Extreme Speed, Bulldoze, Flare Blitz, and I think Wild Charge. So that is my team. Like I said, I got second, and my very first round is probably against one of the best players in the tournament. So I was kind of upset because I didn't have that much testing going into this, but I'm just going to show you guys these games. Hope you guys enjoy them, and let's hop right into it. Alright, preparing to play battle video. So I think this was a 5 or 6 round tournament, then it went into Top Cut. And I'll have a bunch of these games for you guys throughout the week because I know you guys like that Butterfree content. And since you guys like that Butterfree content so much, I decided to make a team that showcased Butterfree to its fullest potential. So I'm leading Butterfree Tapu Lele. He leads Silvally Mimikyu. Now remember, this is the very first game in a best of 3. So what we're doing by doing this is scouting what my opponent can do. Remember, his team had like Coco, Silvally, and a bunch of other stuff. He also, well, he didn't show the Coco, but he has like Coco and other stuff. So we're going to see that he's Choice Scarf Silvally. He goes for that huge explosion, just standard Boom Room stuff. Like literally, I think that I still actually get the advantage here because I pretty much trade Lele for the Silvally here, clock my Butterfree Sash, but then I get to Sleep Powder the Mimikyu. So all is not lost. And I think I'm in a pretty decent spot coming into this because I can then send out something to check like his Gigalith if you were to send Gigalith out, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So he's going to send out Gigalith. I'm going to send out what I believe is Bulu, and I'm pretty sure Bulu checks Gigalith. Like don't question me on it, but I'm pretty sure Bulu can rock that Gigalith with a wood hammer if I had to. And by the way, Choice Scarf Bulu is just major style points. It reminds me so much of Landorus Therian from past formats. He's relatively the same speed-ish, and he just has huge damage, and he also packs that big rock slide. So right away here, you're going to see I'm going to switch out my Butterfree for Kartana, and I was doing that to make it so Butterfree didn't just get KO'd by the Sandstorm, but looking back on it, I think I could have actually just Bug Buzzed the Mimikyu slot, like right there. I could have just Bug Buzzed the Mimikyu slot just to break its disguise at the cost of Butterfree, and then gotten a free switch into Kartana. I think if I would have done that, that would have been a much better play than what I actually did. Because what I actually did was just withdrew my Butterfree for Kartana, but in reality the Sandstorm's up, I'm going to have to send Butterfree out eventually, and it's going to get KO'd. But remember, this is the first game in a best of 3, so what we're really just doing is scouting for, you know, items like we see the leftovers on Celesteela. We're scouting for playstyle habits, we're scouting for different potential combos that my opponent can do. So we're just going to one-hammer the Mimikyu. Remember, if I would have just left Butterfree in and Bug Buzzed the Mimikyu last turn, my wood hammer would have one-shotted it this turn. So just thinking about stuff like that, and I wouldn't have had to do this. I could have like all-outed pummeling the Celesteela, put Celesteela relatively low, if not just KO'd it, depending on its EV spread. And, you know, the game could have been a different game, but it's not really the end of the world. And we also force him to reveal the Flamethrower. So since he reveals the Flamethrower, there's not really that much I can do. I have to send Butterfree out. He still has the Gigalith. And it is what it is. Like, he doesn't really have a Trick Room up, but I can't really do anything against that Celesteela. Bulu is not the Celesteela destroyer, unfortunately, especially after it has a Beast Boost. So we've revealed most of my opponent's items, their tendencies, their playstyle in this first game, and you know, we can try to adapt that for game two. We see the Gigalith come in here, and I think I played like one more turn just to. I want to scout to see if my Wood Hammer can one-shot the Gigalith. I think that's a very important thing. We see him go for the Protect on the Celesteela, which is another thing he's reviewing. And I want to know this for me. Like, I might be revealing it as well, but I just want to know that I can one-shot that Gigalith with a Wood Hammer in terrain, which might come up later on in the set. So I take a huge amount of recoil, but he made the correct play by protecting with Celesteela because it would make Butterfree faint from the Sandstorm. And Choice Scarf Bulu, being the monster that it is, it still can't take out a Celesteela. So that is going to be game one, but it's not really the end of the world. I feel I still have a bunch of shots, and remember, the thing that really gave him a lot of momentum at the start of the game was that explosion, getting a big KO on Lele and dropping Butterfree really low. So I'm like, I can probably change that for game two and adapt my playstyle to potentially neuter that Silvally with an Intimidate. So let's hop into game two. Alright, so we're going into game two here. Like I said, I wanted to adjust my strategy, and this time we're going to be using my two other Pokemon. We're going to be using Arcanine because Celesteela tore us up, as well as Arcanine because that's Intimidate to neuter that Silvally, and I can do that in more ways than one. We're also using Garchomp because he did decide to bring things like Gigalith and other threats that I know Garchomp can take care of, and to be completely honest, my Garchomp actually isn't really afraid of Celesteela. I feel that if it's just like a standard like sub-lefties, maybe Leech Seed, Celesteela. We saw that it had Flamethrower, but if it's that type of Celesteela, I feel like I can just Swords Dance it out and eventually KO it. So we're going to go Butterfree Arcanine, Garchomp, Kartana versus the same Silvally Mimikyu, Gigalith, but Garchomp on his side. So hopefully we can potentially fight some Garchomp mirrors, and even if we do, I feel that I'm pretty confident in the Garchomp mirror. So we're going into game two. Remember, he did take game one, but I still feel I have shots. I mean, Butterfree is a Pokemon that, against a player of lower than Colin's quality, I think I could just roll them over because they don't understand how redirection really works, or how they're not used to redirection in this format, and they're not used to sleep in this format. So Butterfree is a Pokemon that can catch people off guard for sure, but Colin's a really high level player, so there's no way that I'm going to be able to pull a fast one on him. So right away he sees I got intimidated. I'm not going to go for the explosion because it wouldn't kill. He decides to go for Rock Slide and pray for flinches, which is the correct play. And we've also seen two of the Silvally's moves there in Explosion and Rock Slide. So it lets us just go straight away for the Sleep Powder on the Mimikyu, and then we also reveal Bulldoze. I love Butterfree Arcanine as a lead because you can either Tailwind with Butterfree for speed control, or just go for like a Rage Powder or a Sleep Powder, Bulldoze with Arcanine. And it's very good because it drastically limits the sweeping power of that Silvally, and it forces the Silvally to switch next turn, which you're going to take major advantage of. So, like I said, the Silvally has to switch because it's now slower, potentially, than all my Pokemon. Switches right into the Gigalith, which is a very, very good play, and I think I bother the Butterfree here. I think I make the correct play that I should have made in the first game and just let Butterfree go, and I Sleep Powder the Gigalith slot as like a fadeaway. So right now, I'm going to lose Butterfree, but it's going to let me switch into Pokemon for a huge power play. I'm going to be Flare Blitzing Mimikyu, dropping it quite low, and I feel like I'm in a very, very good position. You know, we've revealed a bunch of the moves on the Silvally. I'm getting a free switch into my potential Kartana here, and we have that Mimikyu slot on lockdown with Arcanine. So Butterfree is going to faint, unfortunately, but I think it really did its work this game. And what happens here? Yeah, remember, I'm also running the Assault Vest on my Arcanine, so I'm incredibly bulky. I'm running a full HP Assault Vest set. Full HP attack. So Kartana is going to come in here, and this is actually going to be a super cool turn for me. So I'm going to withdraw here. Note that I can ignore the Gigalith for the few turns of the game, because if I switch in this board, Gigalith has almost no power. I'm going to Smart Strike the Mimikyu just to KO it. Remember, it is super effective on its fairy typing, and it's going to give me a Beast Boost, so I can pretty much do whatever I want next turn. And I'm setting up for a board that can deal with Celesteela in this way. Like, let me see. Yeah, he hasn't revealed Celesteela yet, so this is where he sends out his Garchomp, I think. So this is where he sends out Silvally, my bad. I actually totally outplay him this turn. I go for a Detect, and I block a potential Flamethrower, because I'm thinking, well, he might have Ice Beam, he might have Flamethrower, but if he has Ice Beam, Ice Beam wouldn't KO me, whereas if he has Flamethrower, like, this totally bones him. So, like, if he had Ice Beam, and he just Ice Beam my Garchomp and I detected it, I would just send out my Arcanine and be fine, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. But we totally outplay him there. We detect bait his Flamethrower and KO his Silvally with Attack Rage. And I also just want to talk about the use of Detect over Protect. You should always be using Detect on Pokemon that can learn it, because Pokemon do carry moves like Imprison, which can seal moves that, the user knows, and most Pokemon know Protect. So, just a little heads up, you guys always want to use Detect over Protect in those situations. So we're going to see Garchomp come in here. Remember, I am at +1 with my Kartana, so I'm just going to go for a Leaf Blade. I wasn't really expecting to KO it, and a Swords Dance with my Garchomp. I was expecting either to KO or, something weird. And it looks like he actually has Sand Veil, which is something I didn't really notice till now, because I didn't take Rough Skin damage. But he's going to go for a Tech Rage back on me. I think he is targeting my Kartana, which I believe is a pretty good target. I don't remember if this is a roll or not, because Kartana is incredibly physically bulky. But Tech Rage is a really strong move, Garchomp's a really strong Pokemon, and it's not surprising that it finishes off my Kartana, who definitely did its job. It chunked his Garchomp, it KO'd the Mimikyu, it threatened the Gigalith for a while. And, my Garchomp's sitting pretty at +2. I can KO that thing whenever I want. So I'm going to come in with Arcanine here. And I'm going to go for, I think, an Extreme Speed Rock Slide. And you may think, why are you going for Rock Slide? Well, let's say he, woke up and Wide Guarded me. I didn't want to just KO my Arcanine for free. I'd rather just Rock Slide, because Rock Slide's single target damage is going to do neutral damage to that Gigalith. And it could potentially flinch, and it's going to do a lot, so yeah. So after this turn, I think I would go into the EQs. And he wake up and Earthquakes my Arcanine. So since he woke up and KO'd Arcanine anyways, I don't even remember if he actually KOs it, but yeah, so he is going to KO my Arcanine, which shows me he's heavily invested in offensive stats instead of defensive stats. Also, the damage he took from Rock Slide confirmed that as well. But at this point, I mean, I would just spam Earthquake and he would lose. And that's pretty much it. So that is game 2. We have tied up the score 1 apiece, and we're going to go into game 3. Alright, so we're going into game 3 here against Colin, and you see that he switched it up a little bit. He decided to go Tapu Koko, which was in his team preview the whole time. Most people think that if they lead Tapu Koko, they can beat Butterfree, because Pokemon that are on the ground can't be put to sleep in the electric terrain. But since my team has potentially 2 Tapus in Lele and Bulu, I can always just switch them in and Sleep Powder whoever I want. So we see the Koko Silvally lead, potential for Parting Shot, potential for, just a bunch of other stuff, but there's no potential for Trick Room. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I'm going to run this over. There's not that much this can really do against me, especially because my Arcanine is so specially bulky with Intimidate and Bulldoze. I feel really, really confident looking at the board like this. So we're going to go right into the game, and hopefully, I would run him over, but I don't want to give any spoilers of what happens. Hopefully I should win this. On paper that I should win this one, because Bulu checks, Mimikyu and Gigalith and Koko, and I should have just rolled him here, but I'll show you guys what happens. So we see Koko and Silvally versus Butterfree Arcanine. So it's the same lead I went with last game. It's a very, very good lead against his team, I think. The only thing that would really stop it would be Garchomp, and I'm surprised that he never led Garchomp against me, but he probably just didn't want to get intimidated for no reason. So, right off the bat, we're going to see I switch out my Arcanine, right? I'm coming in with my Bulu. I already intimidated him. Even if you were to switch out Koko and go for an Explosion, Explosion wouldn't deal the same damage it did in Game 1, and my Pokemon would live, and he would just be down a Pokemon for free. So he decides to go with a Parting Shot. Now, this is another thing. He could have Volt Switched with his Koko, he could have Parting Shotted here, but this play that I make covers all my bases here, I think. So he's going to come in with the Mimikyu. Obviously, he's trying to, he's going to chunk the Butterfree here, and he thought that he couldn't get put to sleep, so he thought this was a very, very safe play. And we do see the Life Orb on the Koko, which isn't that important, but note that we Sleep Powder the Koko slot. I realized that the Silvally, if it's intimidated, and since it really only has Flamethrower or Rock Slide, it's pretty useless. So if I Sleep Powder the Koko, I'm going to be in a good spot, and if I Sleep Powder the Koko, and he does decide to Parting Shot in for Mimikyu, which he did, his Mimikyu is going to get put to sleep by Butterfree next round. So he has an Asleep Koko, he's about to have an Asleep Mimikyu, and I went for the Hornleech here, which I don't know if it's the right play. I actually think I should have Wood Hammered, but I would have been killing myself, 2 Wood Hammers and I'm out. So I felt that I should have Hornleech, which I don't know if it's the right play, but I wanted a Horn Leech there, and Mimikyu is put to sleep. So the Silvally has like regained a lot of the momentum. Remember, Silvally is a little bit faster than Bulu. There was a couple things I think I really could have done here, but I'm pretty sure he explodes here, right? So I'm going to switch out my Butterfree in for Arcanine to stop him from being able to KO my Bulu with an explosion or Rock Slide or anything like that. So I think this is a pretty good play, pretty safe play, because Butterfree just would have gotten KO'd. I don't have Protect on Butterfree, else I would have used it. So he goes for that explosion at -1. It's not going to deal like a million damage, but it's going to deal a pretty good amount to both of my Pokemon. Yeah, like, ugh, that's so much damage. But I'm pretty sure it would have KO'd or had a chance to KO if I didn't switch in the Arcanine. And I locked myself in a Horn Leech already, so Horn Leech over Wood Hammer in this scenario, hitting a Mimikyu Disguise, is not very important, but this is where I get unlucky. This is where I lose the game. I got a one-turn sleep. The only turn the Mimikyu was put to sleep was the turn that I used Sleep Powder, and he gets a Trick Room. And I'm still thinking, I have all 4 Pokemon. I'm fine. He has an Asleep Koko, and 1 random Pokemon, and a busted Mimikyu Disguise. And then I forget that Gigalith is like the best Pokemon in the world. Not really forget, but like this Gigalith here is like, oh shit. Like I have an Arcanine and Bulu that are like at 30% and a Butterfree at like probably, I don't remember what my Butterfree's like half too. So I'm like, well, you know, whatever. That's pretty much it because Gigalith is just gonna rock me literally. And I did my best, but I got, unfortunately, a one-turn sleep roll on the Mimikyu. If Mimikyu didn't Trick Room right there, what would have just happened is I would have then, next turn, Flare Blitz Mimikyu, would hammer the Gigalith, and the game would have been over. If you wanted to switch out Mimikyu for Koko to take away my terrain and make it so he doesn't get... Actually, I wouldn't have been able to KO with, though. I wasn't locked into Windhammer, I was locked into Horn Leech. But I still would have won the game. Like, I still would have won. I would have probably Wild Charged and Horn Leeched into the Gigalith, and won like that, but it is what it is, and I did my best. I have no regrets. Unfortunately, though, I am going to slowly lose this one. As you see, I send out Kartana, Butterfree. I get Will-O-Wisp by that Mimikyu, which is a really cool tech. I love using Will-O-Wisp Mimikyu. It's one of my favorite strats, and I think it's really, really good on teams that don't use Feeny, especially ones like Collins who do use Koko. So you can, like, switch in the Koko, go for a Will-O-Wisp on a major threat, and then you really have nothing to KO the Koko anymore. Offensively, I guess. So now that I'm burned, I do think I just run here, but that was round 1. Unfortunately, I go down, losing the very first round in the tournament. That's the worst round to lose, but I thought that Colin would be a really good tiebreaker. I think he dropped to watch... yeah, I think he dropped to watch his friends in Top Cut. But either way, a really good player. I'm really glad that I had the chance to play him because he's been someone I looked up to for, you know, the past couple years. I really like the way he builds teams. And one thing I did like about this game that I looked at his team and I'm like, man, this Pokemon is going to do this because I know he's good. And that's exactly what happened, you know. His Mimikyu was built the way I thought it was. His Silvally was built the way I thought it was. His Koko was built the way I thought it was. And his Celesteela had all the right moves when it needed it. So, really cool game. Unfortunately, I did lose. But this was actually the first game, the first series I played with this team ever. I built this team the night before. It's been an idea in my head for a while, as some of you guys have probably heard on my stream. But, you know, this is the very first game I've actually put it into play. And so, next round... I actually get my act together, I play pretty well, and I'll be uploading all the games from this tournament. I even have the Top Cut games, so you guys will get to see more Butterfree action if you stick around. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.